The things I'm about to talk about in this video changed my life and could change yours too if you haven't already started doing them. Hey, how's it going? I wanted to just talk about 3 things that I wish I had started earlier. There are a couple things that I think everyone can apply to their life and that would actually help them see change and that have helped me see change over the past couple of years. So starting off, number 1, you only have one life, so decide how you're going to spend your time wisely. And a couple years ago I decided that I would stop playing video games. It was taking up 1 or 2 hours of my life each day, and I realised it was a bad habit and it was taking up not only my time but also my thoughts, and removed that clarity of thought from my mind as well. So I decided to quit playing video games. And for anyone who hasn't had that problem, or anyone who's already quit video games, trust me, there are a lot of other improvements that you can make, so this should be relevant to everyone else. Like about 3 weeks ago I decided to uninstall Instagram because I was spending too long on there scrolling, and I found myself just caught up doing that kind of pointless seeking instant gratification. So I decided to uninstall that, just as there's always other changes you can make, there's always space for improvement. You've only got one life, decide how you're going to spend your time wisely. And to make it clear, you shouldn't get upset when you feel like you failed or when you feel like something's not gone the way that you wanted it to go. You've got to understand that you can turn that into a learning opportunity, and that can actually be one of the biggest chances for growth. Even if it feels like you've wasted your time on something, there's always going to be some upside from that. So just see it as a learning opportunity and just grow from there. The second thing, which I wish I'd started earlier, is reading and educating myself. Now, I'm not a massive fan of reading books. I do find it difficult to sit down and read a book a lot of the time. And I know it's healthy to read, and I've been trying to do it a bit more recently, but there's still some good information in YouTube videos and still some things that you can learn from that. What I do want to say though is, you shouldn't spend too much time trying to learn. You also need to be applying, because over the past 2 years on self-improvement, I've been learning a lot, and I haven't really started applying that knowledge until about 10 weeks ago when I decided to start this YouTube channel. And since then it's been a lot different from just kind of that education process, but I'm still trying to figure out and still trying to learn new things along the way. When I started self-improvement and working out, there was so much information on the internet about self-improvement that it was difficult to know exactly what was the truth and what I should actually do, what was relevant for me, what would work for me. The foremost influential people for me and the people that made the biggest change in my life were Mike D on YouTube, Iman Gadzhi on YouTube. He always provides me with motivation, even though his kind of money making methods aren't exactly what I'm doing at the moment, but it is still motivating and inspiring and helps me gain that vision and that focus and kind of that motivation to keep making progress. Third of all was Charisma on Command, who's also on YouTube, and fourth of all is Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I know a lot of people talk about this book. One of the biggest takeaways I had from his book was to understand that to become wealthy, you need to have money working for you rather than be working for money. That's always been in the back of my mind when I'm trying to find any kind of stream of income. The third thing that I wish I started earlier is asking myself questions. Asking myself who I want to be, why I want to be that person, and how I'm going to become that person. By asking yourself questions and doing this kind of reflection activity, it helps you re-understand your purpose and find a kind of peace in the work that you're doing, even when it becomes stressful, because you know exactly why you're working towards it. It's very important to ask yourself why you're doing it, rather than just doing it because your friends are doing it or because you're seeing so much content on YouTube promoting it and kind of feel like you should also be doing it, or it looks good but you don't know where exactly you're headed, and it's just because you see a lot of people doing it. You really need to ask yourself the question who you want to become, why you want to become that person, and how you are going to become that person. I know that might seem a little bit vague, but I would recommend writing out those questions, writing out some answers to that, and maybe also not being too close-minded about it, because there's so much that can happen in your lifetime that a lot of things will change, and you can't be too narrow focused or stubborn about needing to become that person. But like I said earlier, everything that might feel like a failure always has an upside, and you can always learn from it in some way. And so that third tip about asking yourself those questions can help with like the overload of self-improvement content, especially if you've been watching a lot of different content creators or people talking about self-improvement and making money, and it can seem a bit overwhelming. If you can ask yourself those questions and figure out exactly where you're headed, you can then find something that works for you rather than just taking action on something that worked for someone else and may not work for you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.